She wasn't broken. That was the strange part. Nothing in her life looked like collapse. She woke up early. She kept her space clean. Her calendar made sense. Her bank account didn't scare her. Her prayers were consistent, measured, disciplined. From the outside, she looked like a woman who had figured things out. She didn't rush into love, she didn't overshare, she didn't lean too hard on anyone, and she never stayed where things felt uncertain. People admired her calm. They called her wise. They said she was grounded. They said she had boundaries. And she did. Her life was built on structure, not because she loved rules, but because structure kept things from falling apart. Order felt safe. Predictability felt kind. She chose relationships carefully, not from fear, she would have denied that, but from discernment at least. That's what she told herself. She loved God deeply. Faith wasn't something she performed, it was something she practiced quietly, morning prayers, scripture read slowly, a belief that if she stayed aligned, life would remain steady. And for the most part, it did. She smiled easily, but not carelessly. She laughed, but never too loud. She listened more than she spoke. There was nothing wrong with her. No visible wounds, no dramatic story, no obvious heartbreak that demanded healing. That's why no one asked deeper questions. What no one noticed was how carefully she managed closeness, how intimacy always stopped just before it required vulnerability, how conversations stayed thoughtful but never exposed. She didn't avoid people. She simply kept herself intact. If someone disappointed her, she adjusted quietly. If something hurt, she rationalized it. If a connection felt demanding, she stepped back before it could cost her peace. She called it emotional maturity. And in many ways it was. But underneath the calm was a rule she never said out loud. Nothing is allowed to undo me. She had learned, not suddenly, not dramatically, that relying too deeply on others could shift the ground beneath her feet, that expectations, even good ones, could become weight, that closeness, if unchecked, had a way of asking for more than she was willing to give, so she learned to be complete on her own. Independent, concludes, self-sufficient. A woman who didn't need rescuing, a woman who didn't fall apart, a woman who didn't ask for too much. And because her life worked, no one questioned the cost. Not even her. Yet. She began noticing patterns in herself she had ignored for years. She didn't rush to leave anymore, not physically, not outwardly, but she had spent decades protecting her heart with invisible walls. Every choice she made had been measured, every attachment calibrated, every expectation assessed. Her faith had taught her to trust God. Her life had taught her not to trust people at all. That faith meant trusting God, but not people at all. It wasn't cynicism, it wasn't bitterness, it wasn't pride, it was learned survival. She had watched others rely on people and crumble when the foundation shifted. She had witnessed love turn fragile when expectations weren't met. She had seen pain enter quietly and stay indefinitely. So she built her rules, her boundaries, her system of self-protection, and it worked. To the outside world, she seemed composed, measured wise, self-sufficient. Yet inside, she felt the quiet tug of something she had avoided for far too long. Questions, longings, a whisper she had learned to ignore. What if connection didn't have to hurt? What if closeness could exist without losing herself? What if staying was possible? For the first time, she wondered whether her armor had become a cage. And that thought lingered, subtle but undeniable, as she prepared to take a step she had never taken before.
She didn't need to act suddenly. She didn't need fireworks. She simply chose to stay in herself, in her decisions, in the moment. She began practicing presence, listening without preparing an exit, sharing without over-managing the outcome, allowing uncertainty to exist without rushing to resolve it. It felt unfamiliar, uncomfortable, exposing, but also alive. She realized that love doesn't always announce itself clearly. Sometimes it grows slowly. Sometimes it arrives imperfectly. Sometimes it asks you to stay longer than feels safe. And faith, real faith, was never about certainty. It was about courage. She began to understand that healing isn't always about recovering from pain. Sometimes it's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that learned to disappear before anything could touch them. She hadn't been running from people. She had been running from vulnerability. And now, for the first time, she was learning how to stand still, not guarded, not closed, but open, carefully, consciously, bravely open. She didn't know how this new chapter would unfold. She didn't know who would enter her life next. She didn't know if love would last. But she knew this. She no longer wanted a life that felt safe but empty. She wanted depth, connection, presence, even if it meant risk. And this time, she wasn't walking away. She was staying long enough to truly be seen. And if you see parts of yourself in her story, please know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not weak for needing rest. You are healing. And that is holy work. You're not alone in this. Healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the quiet moment you choose yourself. Sometimes it's just breathing again. If this story touched you, subscribe for more, like and comment. We're in this together.
softly, steadily. Thank you for being here.